Welcome to Ancient Dungeon VR, a game where you actively run through dungeons, discovering new items, going through the different floors, researching new topics the further you get into the dungeon, and even learning about different journal pages from different characters. In this game, you meet a few wacky individual characters who will teach you the basics of the dungeon, including how to augment weapons if you complete the dungeon, making them permanently stronger. Before going into the dungeon every time, you are to make a choice whether you pick a sword and a knife or a crossbow and dagger, one of which is locked until you can beat the game for the first time. Entering the dungeons is something of an easy task when you first get in. It's basic dungeon crawler. You break crates and pots and fight enemies along the way. Dramatic pause for effect, but nobody, alas, is coming. In this game, you fight many enemies, such as slimes that shoot fireballs, even bigger slimes that turn into smaller slimes when killed, and zombies. This game is all about exploration, going through these procedurally generated rooms based off of a map that you can read on your wrist, where you can find nice little hidden secrets, interact with the environment in ways that you wouldn't really think about, and find hidden secret passages that might lead to a chest or two. Inside these very Zelda-like dungeons, you will find a whole bunch of different ways to run around and possibly find hidden areas. As you can see right here, there is a kind of crack in the wall. Break that open, and you have found a new hidden area, which most likely will lead to chests, sometimes even enemies. Chests will usually lead you to gold or keys, in which you can see I have none, but I have just collected 20 gold. Right here is a chest with a lock on it. You need keys for those. There are also doors that have locks on them that are very important to getting really good items and accessories to help you with your run in the dungeon. Every now and again, you will come across these little pedestals that have items on them, which this is where the dungeon crawler part comes in. Sometimes, if you're later in the game, you can find 2 items on a pedestal, and you can choose one to keep and protect. For example, I'm going to choose this bell right here to summon a wisp whenever I get hit. And also, you can see there are traps that deal a lot of damage if you get hit. That's a big arrow, isn't it? You will also find little shops where you can spend the gold that you have or gamble it away for something else. For example, I could gamble it away for hearts here, or I could spend it on one of 3 items. Gold Tooth, increasing my melee damage. That would be a good buy, but I'm also really low on health. Granite Pestle causes my weapons to explode when I hit something, or I could just spend 10 gold on an apple that will give me a heart back. This game does a really good job at poking at the heartstrings of people who really like dungeon crawlers and dungeon-like games like the original Zelda series, where you have to travel through these very strange, painstaking areas till eventually you will come across a boss room. Take advantage of the area and fight the boss until your last breath, until you get to move on to the next floor, hopefully, or you might just suffer to the boss's attacks and die a horribly gruesome and fateful death. Two classes, as you have seen before, was the sword and dagger, where you have a little dagger you can throw and a sword you can fight close quarters with. The other class is the ranger, where you can fight with a crossbow that you have to cock back and pull the trigger to fire, which the arrow will then come back to you. And then you have a little knife to help you fight off enemies that get a little too close. For a game that is as simplistic as this one is, you wouldn't think that there is much to it, but this game has a surprising amount of enemies and buffs, items, and even hidden rooms that you can find. I have found endless entertainment out of this game, and always want to come back to it if I can't think of anything else to do with my night. Or if I just want to have a little bit of classic dungeon run fun, but with the font of a VR game. If I had to give this game a score of 1 to 100, as if a Metacritic score, I would easily give it an 85. Now, that does leave for room for improvement, but to me, that's just a gripe on the fact that I wish there was a little bit more variety to the levels. They usually just kind of stick to the exact same format every time, and there's not much distinction between the different levels. The enemy variety is quite nice, but again, could use a little bit more variety to it. And the system of getting to the final boss, having to get to the final boss to upgrade certain weapons, is a little bit tedious, but nevertheless is quite a fun experience. And that has been Ancient Dungeon VR.